Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sports, Cigars, and Coffee. I'm your host, Coach Dave, and it is a beautiful Friday afternoon here in central Wisconsin, and hopefully you're having a good first day of December. Hard to believe we are approaching the Christmas season. We had a lot of things happen last week in football. Last week in college being rivalry weekend, we had some really good games on the NFL docket. So let's just dive right into it. Uh, Last week we had Thanksgiving games. We had the Packers and Lions, the uh, Cowboys and Commanders, and 49ers in Seattle. Two games were blowouts. The Cowboys won 45-10, and the 49ers won 31-13. And then the Packers upset the Lions 29-22. That helps the Eagles out, where they retain a two-game lead for that number one seed. We had the Steelers offense just explode, 400 yards. Go figure. Matt Canada not there anymore. The first game without him, and they explode for 400 yards, and they get the win. A road to division wins always hard to come by. Uh, there were still some things. You had Deion Johnson doing his um, quitting on a play where he was just standing there looking at the ball on the ground. If I was the coach, he would have had to walk home from Pittsburgh or take a school bus. That's unacceptable. You could be pissed you missed a touchdown pass to play before. You could be pissed at the play call, but at least recover the goddamn fumble, please. What a jackwad. Uh, and so the Steelers are hanging there. They're as of right now the fifth seed. We'll get into the playoffs later. And then we had the Jags and Texans played a classic game. This was for the division. Who knew going into the season that this game was going to be for the division? The kicker for the Texans, Amendola, misses a 59-yard field goal, hits the crossbar, and the Jags win 24-21 to retain first place of the AFC South. And then we had the first ever Black Friday NFL game, the Miami Dolphins at New York Jets. And this was a blowout from the word go. I predicted Miami was going to win 34-6. They actually won 34-13. The Jets are a hopeless cause right now. Their offensive line can't block air. Their defense can't stop anybody right now. They have one good offensive player in Wilson, and the running back Hall. He's not bad, uh, but it's a lost cause. And the fact that Aaron Rodgers wants to come back and play for this when they have no shot at the playoffs, when they have a offensive line that has many holes in it as a slice of Swiss cheese, why would he want to? Well, I'll tell you why he want to. Because he's an egotistical prick. That's why. Uh, it wouldn't doubt me if he didn't fully tear his Achilles, and now he wants to come across as this medical marvel who defied science. Would not would not would not doubt me that he has kept it from the Jets that he didn't fully tear it, and he wants to be this medical marvel. He wants all eyes on him. Me. He loves Aaron Rodgers more than Aaron Rodgers loves team and teammates. That's my take. I can't stand the guy. I can't wait till he retires. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but as a person, he's not even close to being in the Hall of Good. So that's my Aaron Rodgers rant for today. Hopefully, hopefully he doesn't play. You don't want to see somebody go out there on an Achilles, whether it's repaired or what, because that you lose your Achilles as an athlete, you're pretty much done. And they say it's actually not until year two that you're 100%. A year after surgery, you're able to do things, but you're not really 100% until that second year. So maybe he needs to go into a darkness retreat and then stay there for the rest of his life. And we had the Piasan. Hey, Demi DeVito. He did it again. a 10-7 win against the Patriots, which really was a loss because now the Giants are pushed back to the sixth pick. But hey, the Piasan, he did it again. Hey, Mapangulio. He's hey, give him credit. He's a rookie. He's out there playing. He's playing for a job in the NFL, and I know while the games are going on, you're thinking, oh, let's get a top five pick. But these guys are playing. They're playing for paychecks. They're playing for their next job. They're playing for their next coach, possibly when they put the game film on. And the Paisan, hey, who knows? But it's good to have an Italian in the NFL. Usually the Italians are the big guys up front. Usually the Italians are the defensive linemen like Tony Saragusa. God rest his soul. It's good to have a skill position Italian. Because no one's picking the Italians for the skill position. Let's just be honest. We lay good concrete, we lay good bricks, we wash a good driveway with the hose, but we're not skilled athletes. That's why we're in the trenches. But hey, good for DeVito. Hope he likes his the chicken parmesan and the chicken cutlets that his mom makes him. The kid's got it made. He lives 10 minutes from the stadium. Lives with his parents. His laundry is done every day. His uh, meals are cooked for him. Bed is made. Welcome to the Italian family, because that's how pretty much every Italian mother treats their son. So good for him. I'm glad he's having success as long as he loses at least one game, at the end of the year when the Eagles clinch the number one seed. Uh, right now, let's talk about those playoff races. If the playoffs were today on Friday, December 1st, in the AFC, Baltimore would be the number one seed. Number two seed will be Kansas City, and they'd be hosting the Colts. Go figure. The number three seed would be the Jags, and they'd be hosting the number six seed Browns. And the number four seed Miami Dolphins would be hosting the number five seed Pittsburgh Steelers. So as it stands now, the AFC North gets three teams, and the AFC South has two teams. Who would have figured? Who would have figured that that's what would have happened? Um, but here we are. There's a lot of football left. Uh, those matchups are pretty good matchups, except, you would expect Kansas City to blow the Colts out, but the Jags in Cleveland, Cleveland has that defense. The Steelers have a defense. Miami has the newest, fastest show on turf, or the greatest show on turf. So we'll see. We'll see. So now the in the NFC we have Philadelphia will be the number one seed. Now these were going, but this is before the Dallas Seattle game, which I know um, Dallas won in a shootout 41-35. But this would be the number two seed would be the 49ers against hosting the Vikings, the seven seed. Detroit would be the three seed hosting Seattle, and Atlanta would be the four seed hosting Dallas. And everybody in the NFC South has a losing record. And it would be, you win the division, you get in, you hope for the best. Really, those matchups really do nothing for me. Uh, Detroit Seattle has the potential to be a good game. Um, Dallas should blow Atlanta out. 49ers should blow the Vikings out. But we know that's why we play the games, right? Heading into this week as well, I have my three Coach of the Year candidates. I have D'Amico Ryans number one, Mike Tomlin number two, and Nick Sirianni number three. Uh, what Ryans is doing in Houston is unbelievable. And if he doesn't win, Coach, hey, I'm biased. I want my Eagles guys to win their awards, but let's just be honest. Ryans, he's Coach of the Year. I mean, with a rookie quarterback, rookie wide receiver, I love Tank Dell. You know, he's got it. And Mike Tomlin could just flat out coach. I mean, this guy could have Cliff Stout, and he could have Huey Richardson. And for those Steeler fans out there who are listening, you know who Cliff Stout and Huey Richardson are. Uh, and he could just coach. He could get win. I mean, the fact that he's winning 7 games this year with an offense that is less can run less yardage and less plays, less yardage than their opponents, have no creativity. My youth football team when I coached and I ran that offense had more creativity than the Steelers offense. Uh, but Mike Tomlin can just flat out coach. He can just flat out coach. The dude can coach my team in a year. And those years, after they, after in between the, when they had those Super Bowl runs when they won and lost, and all the Steeler fans wanted to get rid of Tomlin, I said, "You get rid of him, I'd gladly take him. The guy can just flat out coach." And number three is Nick Sirianni. I don't know. Look, I get it. He's an arrogant prick. He has a punchable face, and if he wasn't the coach of the Eagles, I'd probably want to punch his face too. Uh, the guy could coach. I mean, their attention to detail at the end of the game is superior than other teams. They play the first round or the first half is kind of like the first two rounds of a heavyweight bout. You're just sizing them up, seeing what plays are going to work. Fans are frustrated. Fans want the offensive coordinator fired. Fans want the defensive coordinator fired. Excuse me. Fans want this player cut. But in the second half, they just figure it out and they just get it done. And when Buffalo scored the touchdown to go up 31-28, I said there's too much time on. There's too much time. And the defense that Buffalo played on that final drive in regulation, where they were just given the left hash to the sidelines, and the Eagles just took it 5 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards. They didn't have a big play. They didn't go home run. The Bills were just giving them 5, 6, 7 yards, and they were just taking it and they were getting out of bounds. They were taking it. And then he had the future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest centers of all time, commit not one, but two false starts when he flinched the ball. And he admitted it. They were legit calls. And he have Jake motherfucking Elliott. Sorry for the swear word. That's his new name in my house. The dude is 4 for 4 and 58-yard field goals or longer. In the fourth quarter and overtime and playoffs, he hasn't missed. The dude is clutch. And the wind was going from left to right, and he just got that trajectory just right. The wind took it a little bit, and then in overtime, the Bills kick a field goal. They had a touchdown. The receiver and quarterback ran two different plays on the option route. The quarterback threw a post, and the receiver ran the back corner flag. Thankfully, they made they made the field goal. And again, the Eagles just methodically boom, 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 boom. 5 yard run, 8 yard pass to Brown, 8 yard pass to Smith, 8 yard run, quarterback draw for 8 yards, a 6 yard pass for a first down, and then boom, a 22 yard run to the 12 yard line. And I was actually out. I was watching the game out. I was out with my son. And I had the game on mute and I was watching the end of the game on my phone. And I couldn't believe the defense. Like I thought maybe it was my phone and the angle. So I rewatched the game, that last drive, and I couldn't believe the defense that Buffalo played. The Eagles had the perfect formation. They had two receivers to the right on the field side. They put Swift in motion. Now option one was going to be a screen pass to Swift if if it wasn't man to man, or if the defense didn't shift. So he goes in motion, you have your two lead blocks. But what happened? Not only did the safety foul Swift, but the linebackers kicked towards the strong side of the field. There was nothing left on the left. There was nothing left on the weak side. So Jalen just took it, and then Kelsey pulls pancakes to the one defender to one defender that would have made a play, and he waltzes in for a touchdown. I thought Sean McDermott was a football genius. Whenever you have a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, you gotta put some sort of spy. You gotta put, especially in the red zone, because we saw Josh Allen ran over guys for a touchdown in the red zone. And I know Josh Allen has a reputation of coming up small in the big time, but he that was not on him. That was on his coach and his defense of coordinator. uh, in defense. So Nick Sirianni, whatever he does in the locker room at halftime with the adjustments, is just fabulous, and that's got to count for something. I know the guy's an arrogant prick. He's he's the head coach of my favorite team, with a very punchable face, but the man can coach. Um, Defensive player of the year, I have. I think Miles Garrett is running away with it. In fact, he's getting close into the NFL MVP talk, and we haven't had an MVP defensive player since LT in 1986, who, put on record, is the greatest NFL football player I ever saw. TJ Watt second, Micah Parsons third. I think Miles Garrett is just putting together one of the best defensive years I've seen in a long, long time. Uh, MVP rankings. Now, like I said, I have Miles Garrett creeping closer and closer. So I have C.J. Stroud 5. I have Patrick Mahomes 4, 2 or 3. I have Lamar Jackson 2 and Jalen Hurts 1. And the reason why Jalen and Lamar are 1 and 2 is because I think they're carrying their teams for the most part offensively. I mean, you saw when Jalen Hurts struggles, the offense struggles. When Jalen Hurts is on, like he was in the second half, the offense thrives, and he he just makes the big plays. I'm not biased. As a football, as a when I watched the Eagles game, the first time I watched the game, I watched it as an Eagles fan, and then the second time I'll go through it and watch it as a football fan. And he just makes plays. He's clutch. You can't deny that. You know, the, fir- he reminds me a lot of Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning in terms of for 3.5 quarters they could look like absolute garbage. And in the last 8 minutes of the game, they could be 12 for 12 for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns with a game-winning drive. That's what I mean. I'm not comparing their numbers. I'm not comparing their skill. I'm just comparing they could look bad, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter they could look like who they should be. It's weird. It's just weird. At any time did I think the Eagles were going to lose that game against the Bills? There was not one time. And then now, this week we got the big one. Sunday, 4:25 Eastern in Philadelphia. We have the 49ers and the Eagles. I think this game means more to the 49ers than it does the Eagles, because even if the Eagles lose, it's not desperation mode. It's like, all right, we still got Dallas, and we still control our destiny. I think this game means more, especially all the chirping that the 49ers did in the offseason and this week. I think this game means more. If the 49ers were to come in and have a full team and the Eagles beat them, I wonder what that would do to their psyche. Will that just cause them to go into another losing streak? I don't know. Um, we'll see. The Eagles are mentally tough. They're battle tested. They could win any style. The 49ers have a really solid defense. They have one of the best running backs in the NFL. They have an offensive genius calling plays. Uh, and they have the reigning defensive player of the year. They have a middle linebacker who is always in the conversation of top middle linebackers in the league. Uh, if the Eagles pull this one out, then they pretty much, pretty much uh, have the 1 or 2 seed. Let's just be honest. And if they beat the Cowboys next week, then they really clinch pretty much everything. But like I said, it's not the end of the world if they lose. Eagle fans, don't get panic stricken if the Eagles lose tomorrow, because as of right now, this is the 49ers Super Bowl. If the Eagles lose and they beat Dallas, then it's okay. It's okay. Okay? Don't get panic stricken if the 49ers win. And then we also have the Chiefs Packers on Sunday night. Packers are coming on. They're one spot out of the playoffs right now. But I like the Chiefs to win that game 28-20. The Lions and the Saints. I have the Lions winning that one 24-13. And the Broncos and the Texans. This is huge for playoff positioning and playoff implications. But I do like the Texans to win 19-17. Uh, and the NFL, we're getting to that point now where we're getting every win is big, especially for these teams who are like the Texans and the Broncos and the Packers. Every game's a playoff game from here on out. Every game's a playoff game. Uh, the Steelers, they have a nice little schedule stretch coming up where they have like 3 or 4 games where they could win and then be in a prime position on the last weekend to beat the Ravens and steal the division. Uh, so you just gotta keep stacking the wins, stacking the wins. This is my favorite time of the year for football, but it's also the worst time because it's coming to an end. Because you have college football. Tonight we have Oregon and Washington, and I don't know why Washington's a 9-point underdog. I don't know why people have Oregon ranked ahead of Washington in some of their polls, but Washington is as long as they got Michael Penix Jr., who, by the way, Michael, you're still out of bounds against Penn State on a 2-point conversion play in 2020. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Uh, so that game's tonight. So by the time this is uploaded, we will know the results of that of the Pac-12, and that's it. It's the final Pac-12 game as we know it. We have 2 teams left in the Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State, I believe, and they are going to be playing Mountain West teams. I don't know what's going to happen to them. Or maybe it's Cal, but I know there's 2 teams left, and with Washington, Oregon, and UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten. Colorado is going back to the Big 12. So that was it. Last night was it. Was the last Pac-12 football game, and it was kind of, it's going to be the last game. And I like Washington to win. I think Washington wins by 6. I think they win 20. I think they win 26-20 in a close game. Uh, and then last week we had you know um, Michigan claimed the East by beating Ohio State 30-24. So they're going to take on Iowa. Uh, I do like Michigan should win because Iowa punts and kicks field goals, and you can't do that beating Michigan. The only way Michigan loses this game is if they beat themselves. I like Michigan to win this game 31-13 and to nail down a playoff spot like with Washington. Washington wins tonight. They're nailing down 26-20 Washington. They're in the playoffs. Michigan 31-13. They're in the playoffs. Then we have the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State and Texas. Now, we saw on Tuesday when the rankings were released that Texas is pretty much screwed no matter what happens. I like Texas to win this game 34-31, but they're going to be left out of the playoffs. We have Alabama and Georgia, and this is the last game the SEC is going to be on CBS. CBS no longer will have the SEC starting the 2024 season. Remember all those big games with Vern Lundquist calling those games in the 2000s? So CBS now will no longer have the SEC. Alabama, Georgia. I think Alabama should be higher ranked than what they are. Um, I think Alabama wins this 37-34 in overtime is my prediction. 37-34 in overtime. And in my opinion, if you lose if you're in the top 4, if you're in the top 4 in the final ranking and you lose the conference championship game, you should be eliminated from the playoffs. This should be treated as a quarterfinal this year with the 4 teams. We won't have to worry about that next year when there's 12 teams. But I do like Alabama to win this game 37-34 in overtime. We have the AAC championship, SMU and Tulane. Tulane is the only undefeated Group 5 team. I don't know anything about either team, so I'm not going to pick a winner. But if Tulane wins, they're automatically guaranteed a New Year's Eve 6 bowl game. If SMU wins, then the Group 5 will have no New Year's Eve 6. And that's huge because I've seen a lot of people, a lot of experts picking the matchup of Tulane and Penn State in the Peach Bowl. So keep that in mind when you're watching the games today. And then the ACC final, Louisville and Florida State. I mean, I just feel so bad for Florida State. They had a great quarterback to get hurt in a freak accident on Joe Theismann, Alex Smith type accident on the field. Um, I think they have enough to beat Louisville. Uh, but if again, you know, throws a wrench in the playoffs if you know in the New Year's Eve six, because in order for Peach Bowl to get Penn State who they want, the Peach Bowl wants Penn State. It has to go chalk. Florida State has to win, Michigan has to win, and Texas has to win. If those three things happen, Penn State's guaranteed the New Year's Eve Six Bowl, a big payout. Um, 10 wins. Going to a New Year's Eve Six Bowl is good for recruiting, and then next year with the uh, expansion, there'll probably be, if the 12th team playoff was in play every year, James Franklin would have made the playoffs five times. Uh, but that's not till next year. So who do you think is going to be the four playoff teams? I think is when the dust settles, the four playoff teams are going to be Michigan, Washington, Alabama, and Georgia. I think Georgia is still going to get in because they're the defending champs and they lost to Alabama, which is it's not like they lost to Pitt uh, or Indiana or Northwestern, a team that they should have beaten by 40 points. So that's who I think the final. So who do you think is going to be the final uh, four teams to stand? And uh, who do you believe is the Heisman winner? Now, I think it's Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's the best player in college football. His numbers don't say it, uh, but I have a feeling that Michael Penix Jr. is going to win. Not that that's horrible. I don't think that's a crime. Like when Larry Fitzgerald should have won and he didn't, or when Eric Crouch won it, or when Gino Toretto won it, or when Ty Detmer won it. Those were crimes. Let's just be honest. Rocket Ishmael should have won the Heisman. Point blank. He should have won the Heisman. But the voters look at stats, they look at numbers, they look at what you do in big games. But let's just be honest. Is if Marvin Harrison Jr. is not on Ohio State's offense is Penn State's offense. Let's just be honest. They're a mediocre quarterback. They have a mediocre scheme, and Marvin Harrison Jr. bails them out. Well, I'm not gonna lie. You know, he could. That if they had another player step up, they may have been able to beat Michigan. So that's my take. But I do think that Michael Penix Jr. is going to win it, especially if he balls out in the game tonight with Oregon. It's hard to believe that Bo Nix is up there because when he was at Happy Valley a few years ago, he looked like anything but a top Division I quarterback. Uh, so that's it. Who do you think is going to win the Heisman? Who are your four playoff teams? The NFL. Who are your defensive player of the years right now? Who's your coach of the years? Because that's the time where we're getting into. We're getting into all these awards. We're getting into playoff positioning. Uh, I hope that I just hope that voters vote not just based on stats. That's my take. So with that being said, let's take a look at our NFL tier. We'll hop to our NFL tier. We're gonna go bottom up this week. We're gonna go with our unpaid interns. We're gonna go at Washington Commanders, the Carolina Panthers, who are just a mess of an organization, the Arizona Cardinals, and the New England Patriots. Who would have thought that you would have the New England Patriots coached by Bill Belichick as an unpaid intern? Our office hourly employees are the Giants, New York Giants, the Chicago Bears, the New York Jets, Tennessee Titans, and the LA Chargers. I expect the Chargers to have a new coach next year. I'm not sure why Mike Vrabel is with Tennessee, why he's bulletproof, because since they were the number one seed, they have regressed big time. So I'm not sure um, why he is bulletproof right now. Our team leaders right now are the Green Bay Packers, the LA Rams, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Vegas Raiders. Regional managers, the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts. The Bills just can't get out of their own way. Josh Allen's 0-6 in overtime games. Now, I get it. Not all of it's his fault. I mean, the defense gives up points to Kansas City and 13 points, and they give up 9 points against the Eagles on the Eagles' final two drives. I get it. Not his point. Um, Not his fault. In fact, the only reason why the Bills were in that game and winning was because of Josh Allen. Regional assistant vice presidents, the Minnesota Vikings, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Houston Texans. Seattle's a funny team. You know, for 2 weeks they look like world beaters, and the next 2 weeks they look like they're the worst team in football. So I don't know what to make of them. They got blown out with against the 49ers, and then they lost a heartbreaking shootout 41-35 to the Cowboys. I can't figure them out. Our regional vice presidents are the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, and the Denver Broncos. Again, hats off to Sean Payton, and he probably should be in the Coach of the Year candidate. Now that when I relook at it, you got to put him like third or fourth. Flop him and Sirianni. Personally, I can't stand the guy, but he's doing. He did it. They were 1-5, 1-5, and now they're 6-5. Our CFO, the Detroit Lions. Is that loss to the Packers going to wake them up, or is it going to cause a slide, a swoon? Our COOs, Chief Operating Officers, are the Dallas Cowboys, the Miami Dolphins, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And our CEOs are the Philadelphia Eagles, the San Francisco 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Chiefs. Those are the four best teams in the NFL, right? I think. I think they're the four best teams. Now, are they the four best teams playing the best right now? No, but when you look at the whole picture, from the start of the season to now and the roster, those are the four best teams. What do you think? Who are your four best teams? Where would you put? Who would you put right now at your top four? Uh, 'Cause I think that's it. I think those are the top four teams. Now, Dallas, Miami, you don't know. And it's going to be funny when they play each other. What's going to happen? Because then finally somebody's going to be a team with a winning record. And I think Jacksonville is solid. They got a good coach, good quarterback. They got good defense, solid receiving core, Super Bowl winning head coach. So they're not going to go anywhere. So it's going to be an interesting last month of the season. So what do you think? Let's keep that conversation going, and let's finish up with my NCAA top 10. Number one, I have Michigan. Number two, Georgia. Number three, Washington. Number four, Oregon. Number five, Florida State. Number six, Texas. Number seven, Alabama. Number eight, Ohio State. Number nine, Penn State. Number 10, Ole Miss. And the next two looking in, Oklahoma, Missouri. Now, this was before the Pac. This is before the championship weekend, before the Pac-12 championship game. But I just think Alabama beats Georgia, and I think the committee's going to jump them. Especially if Oregon loses, they're out. And I really do. I think Texas is going to. I think Texas is screwed because if they beat Oklahoma State, they're going to be told you should have beat Oklahoma State, and they're going to be stuck at 6. And I think the committee will jump Alabama 2-4 if they beat Georgia. I really do. The one thing I want to add is why does the committee since day one, I never understood why the committee released weekly rankings starting with the third Tuesday of October. Why? Do you just paint yourself in a corner here of saying that Texas they know they have no shot. They know they have no shot if they win this game. You know, they know. So why release? It's so stupid. Like the NCAA basketball committee doesn't release rankings, in February for the top 68 teams. There's no reason for football to do it. I know it's a talking point with all the TV shows on ESPN and Fox and all the podcasts and all the YouTube, and everybody. Well, I just don't get why they do it. I wouldn't do it if I was part of the NCAA, but there's a lot of things I wouldn't do if I was part of the NCAA, because I'd run it with common sense, and there's it was that movie, The Program, the NC double assholes. That's what they are. Uh, so that's a wrap on the NFL. Uh, that's a wrap on college football for this week. We got championship week. We have the NFL's going to start to get teams are going to be starting getting eliminated, and teams are going to start staking their place in playoffs. Now, next Monday, the 4th through the 7th, are the Major League Baseball winter meetings. So we'll see who signs where. Uh, they're saying that the Soto to the Yankees talks are heating up. Um, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens next week. That's when all the signings start, is at the winter meetings. And then you have a domino effect of once one guy signs and the next guy signs. I think everybody's waiting on Otani to see what he's going to command. Uh, my prediction is he's going to end up with the Dodgers. Uh, Seattle is a dark horse, but we'll see. We'll see. And then the last thing I want to say is good luck tonight to the Dunmore Bucks football team, my high school alma mater, as they battled in the Eastern Finals tonight. For those who don't know, Pennsylvania splits the state down the middle. So the Western teams play against each other and the Eastern teams play against each other. And then the Final Four, you have the Western Finals and the Eastern Finals. So Dunmore's in the Final Four against Southern Columbia, I think, who's won 5 straight, who has a nice recruiting factory going. So it all depends on how the recruiting season's been this year for Southern Columbia. But it's going to be, Dunmore. It's one town, one team. It's one of the last one town, one school teams. You know, in the state. You know, I know Old Forge next to them as well. But good luck to the Bucks, and hopefully they could pull off the upset. And with that being said, enjoy championship weekend. Enjoy the NFL. We'll talk next week. Share, like, comment, keep it rolling. Let's build this up. Arrivederci.